You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Cabral Concept. Great to have you here today. Can't wait to get into our Total Wellness Tuesday show, where we are about to tackle the topic of how to prevent, to the absolute best of our ability, breast cancer and prostate cancer. Super important. Why is this so important? Because 1 out of 8 women right now in their life will get breast cancer. That equals 12% of all women. And that's over 250,000 cases a year in invasive breast cancer-based surgeries and treatments. So this is something that we can't overlook. Again, 1 in 8 women. If you just look in a crowd of 8 women, 1 of those women will get breast cancer. So there's so much we can do, though, in order to prevent, and that's what we're going to go over today. We're going to go over the foods. We're going to go over certain things that we have to stay away from because we know a lot of causal factors. So it's time to share these things with the general public at large. So it's your job as a integrative health practitioner, it's your job as a mom, it's your job as a sister, community member, coworker, to share this information, to say to people, listen, these are some things that we can do so that 1 out of 8 women are not going to get breast cancer. Now, the other part is this. For men, it's the second most common form of cancer. Out of all types of cancer for men, prostate is number 2, the first one being skin cancer. And it's about 175,000 men a year will be diagnosed with prostate cancer. But not only that, if you look at the statistics, it shows that about 80% of men who reach the age of 80 have cancer cells in their prostate. So if we look at that, there's so much before prostate cancer as well. There's also prostatitis. There are inflammation of the prostate. But if we look at that and we say 80%, 8 out of 10 men are going to have some type of prostate cancer by the time they're 80. These are things that we want to look at. Now, average diagnosis of prostate cancer, about 65, 66 years old. However, it is something that can occur after the age of 40. So we want to look at this. These are 2 things that affect, obviously, men, and 1 affects women specifically. So these are things that we want to say, what is causing this massive increase in the rate of cancer for breast cancer and prostate cancer for men? I want to go over that. And why are they similar? Well, it's estrogenic-based factors, and it's also toxins in the environment. So I don't want to just say toxins in the environment because people are like, oh, yeah, toxins, okay, toxins. No, let's go over exactly what they are. What are those toxins so that you know what to stay away from? One of the most invasive is flame retardants. So what are flame retardants? Well, flame retardants literally help to not allow fires to start or for the material to be able to burn as quickly. It doesn't always prevent it from burning, just not as quickly. Slows it down. So we look at this. Believe it or not, they allowed children's pajamas, to be sprayed with flame retardants all the way into the 1970s. And then they found there might be causal factors for an increase in cancer with flame retardants. Now, took them out of pajamas, but here's the thing. They can be on your couch cushions. They're definitely on your airplane-based seats. They can be used in all sorts of polyester-based resins in clothes. They could be used in plastic polymers. They're used in polyurethane and all of these things off gas. You breathe in the vapors, and also when you touch them, airplanes, couches, etc., they can be absorbed through the skin. These are highly carcinogenic-based compounds. That means anytime you hear me say the word carcinogen or carcinogenic, it means possible, potentially causing cancer. So super important to look at that. Because there's also a lot of mattresses, and this includes baby mattresses, using flame retardants. That's why when I gave my mattress recommendation maybe about a month ago, so many people went out and grabbed a new mattress. And the reason was I gave you one of the least expensive ones that passes all the tests, that doesn't use the glues and all of the other different types of harmful factors, that it is organic. Again, these are all things, slowly but surely, I want you to introduce into your healthy lifestyle. I don't own a mattress company. I don't own a lot of these things that I'm going to be talking about today. My goal is to give you, though, exactly what I do. Again, we're not perfect, and all these things haven't been switched out in my house, till a couple years ago, and we were doing them a little bit at a time. If we bought a mattress, which we did, we couldn't just replace it right away. We just didn't want to make another one of those investments. But what we said is, okay, soon enough, we know what we're sleeping on, okay? Well, we need to switch this out, and that's what we did. Again, we wrapped our current mattress that we had, in the mattress cover to at least seal it, but then we made that investment just in a nicer organic based mattress. So flame retardants are a big one. Okay, these are chemicals that have been shown to cause cancer. But another big one that almost nobody wants to talk about is acrylamides. And there are different ways of pronouncing this, but acrylamides is the phonetic based way of saying that. And what happens is when you cook things that you deep fry them, let's just talk about French fries or any high temperature based food, or maybe there's some charcoal on the meats that you're grilling outside, often caused with smoked foods or smoking in general, breathing in tobacco smoke, even if you're not the one smoking it. And sometimes, believe it or not, it's even in diapers and cosmetics. So again, it goes back to knowing what you're putting in your body, knowing what you're being exposed to. And I have a nice little quiz for you. We'll try to link it up today. And it's a free quiz that you can take. You don't even have to enter, I don't think, your email for this one or anything. And I'm going to link it up today. I'm going to do that at stevencabral.com/1383. All right, 1383. That's where we'll link it up. And it will be my previous podcast on how full is your rain barrel. Because remember, if you're ticking off more than 20 points on this rain barrel effect-based quiz, if you're over 20, that's when we know, okay, it's time to do work. It doesn't mean that you're going to get breast cancer. It doesn't mean you're going to get prostate cancer, but it should be a wake-up sign like it was for me many years ago. So really important to check that out. All right, another one is this, benzene. What is that? Well, gasoline, tobacco smoke it's in, adhesives, paints, sealants, oils. If you're an artist, you might be exposed to it. If you're in new construction homes, you might be exposed to it. New office, might be exposed to it. That's why these things are so important. It's the off-gassing. You don't see benzene-based vapors. It's going to be invisible. You're not going to see them. And that's, again, it's extremely important. I did a podcast previously on my favorite air filter, okay? We moved into a new place. We had that air filter running. We had the windows open, trying to get everything out that we could. And again, it's a clean building, but still, you just never know. We had a rug that we purchased, cleaned. They said that they were going to use it using clean-based methods. The rug came back. We could just smell the solvents on it. We had to get rid of the rug. And yes, there's some compromise in life, but it's tough to compromise on your health, right? Especially we have 2 young girls. We want to do right by them because their bodies are going to be that much more sensitive. You can only do your best, but you should try to do your best. That's it. That's all I can say. Okay, let me just give you a couple more. Heterocyclic amines. I talked about these on my last Friday podcast and also the Game Changers documentary review a little while back as well. Maybe that was like last Wednesday. And this is meat specifically cooked at high temperatures, okay? Most common in red meat, but meat in general, and also in tobacco smoke. Now, you can see why eating red meat at a higher amount could also be linked with the same causal factors as tobacco smoke. And again, these studies have already been proven. I'm not saying to people that you can't eat any meat. What I am saying is the more you eat meat, the more you cook it, especially at high temperatures, and if there's any charcoal on it, the more potential for cancer. There's no doubt about that, okay? All right. Believe it or not, specific pharmaceuticals, diuretics, some antifungals, some anti-infectives. Again, these are pharmaceuticals. These are not natural herbs like caprylic acid or oregano or thyme or clove or black walnut hull. We're not talking about any of those. We're talking about pharmaceuticals and also chemotherapy-based agents. So pretty impressive to look at that. It's like, okay, we're trying to prevent breast cancer. We're trying to prevent prostate cancer, yet some chemo-based drugs may actually have disruption on hormones as well. All right, just a couple more. Talked about this before, but PAHs are another one. Tobacco, smoke, air pollution, charred food, styrenes. Styrenes is a big one. Consumer packing materials, polystyrene, carpets, adhesives, glues, certain tapes. Parabens I didn't talk about as well, PCBs, even touching like receipt paper, right? When you get a receipt at a store, don't grab it, don't take it. You don't need the receipt, right? You can just check out, you can use your online payments. Just touching that alone is going to expose you to some of those chemicals too. Ochratoxin A, mold, right? Mold is another one. We do a mold toxicity test to test people to see if they have mold. You can also find that on the Candida metabolism and vitamins-based test, mold-based markers. All important to look at it. So, stay away from the plastics, stay away from the parabens, stay away from a lot of those cosmetic-based products that I said before can cause cancer-based issues. All right, so what do we do? Well, a couple things we're going to do. Intermediary step before I give you the daily fruits, vegetables, things like that you want to include. You can't live in today's day and age. You can't. You cannot live in the world that we live in. And I'd like to go back to my story of when I was in the north of India with Dr. Morier, and we went all over the foothills of the Himalayas. It was really interesting and very knowledge-based and informative-based experience with him. But he had a lot of great anecdotes as well. Very soft-spoken man, soft-spoken doctor, really great guy. Hope to see him again in the future soon on my next trip back to India. So, interesting though. We were in the foothills of the Himalayas. We were looking at the herbs growing naturally in nature. He was quizzing me basically on the different plants, looking at them, what they're used for in Ayurveda. It was great, right? I mean, he didn't cut me any slack. He said, these are things that you have to know. You can't just know them in a textbook. You need to know them in nature. And I thought that was smart, right? You should know. You should be able to detect. You should be able to know. And you should know what they're used for. And then you should know if it's the root, if it's the flower, if it's the fruit, if it's a leaf. Because remember, plant-based medicine, you use all different parts, and they're all used for different things. So let me go back to his story, because we saw this yogi literally living in the Himalayas. It was an amazing sight. We're near the Ganges River. There is a yogi living in a tree, in his own little treehouse, and he's just wearing a loincloth. I can't make this stuff up. He's got a little wood ladder that he climbs up to, and he was literally bathing himself in the river when we saw him. And so he said, and this is living in the foothills of the Himalayas. It's pretty pure there. Right? Lots of oxygen, clean trees. And he says, see that yogi over there? And I said, yeah, I see him. And he said, even that yogi, living here, no clothes on, in nature, drinking out of the river, eating the herbs, he still has toxins in his body. Because that is the world that we live in today. And in the United States, with over 77,000 man-made chemicals, you need to purify. Now, what do they do in Ayurveda? What did I do when I was overseas in India multiple times and in Sri Lanka? What do we do? Panchakarma, purification, detoxification. What do they do with Panchakarma? A long Panchakarma, 3 weeks, 6 weeks every year. And then shorter ones every season. And that's what I teach today. But I just try to teach it from more of a Western-based perspective. And we do our functional medicine detox every quarter. That's what we do. Every 12 weeks, 7-day detox. Do a 21-day detox to start, 7 days maintain. We use the product I formulated. It's simple. It's easy to do, okay? Meaning like it's simple directions to follow. You do have to do the work, and it works great. And we guarantee it. But you never have to use the products that I formulate. You can always use a good quality functional medicine-based brand. But why I'm saying that is you have to do a functional medicine detox. You need to get these things out of your body. I can tell you right now, so here's just one. It's estimated that 90% of Americans have flame retardant chemicals in their bodies. And many studies have linked them to human health risks, including infertility, birth defects, lower IQs, behavioral problems in children, as well as liver, kidney, testicle, and breast cancer. So now look at that. But here's the thing. We can even back this up more. You can run an environmental toxicity test. You can run a toxicity test right at home. Simple urine-based test. I will link that up today in the show notes at 1383 today. So here's the thing. You can run that. You can run mold tests. You can run any of these tests. People say, oh, there's no such thing as toxins. So here's the thing. The World Health Organization has already listed the toxins. These are man-made chemicals. About 8,000 plus in Europe, 77,000 in the U.S. But they float in the air. They go all around the world, right? There's plastics all around the world, so they're there. Average woman uses 12 different products, over 126 different chemicals on her body. The average child, they only tested 400 different chemicals. On average, over 200, usually around 232 chemicals out of 400. So we know they're there, right? So we can't deny it. All I'm saying is, again, public service announcement, a functional medicine detox ramps up phase 1 and phase 2 liver detox, and it's going to get these chemicals out of the body. It just has to be done. Okay, I'm moving on past that, though, and I'm going to give you the daily things that you can do. All right, so let me go over this. I've given a few of these before. I want to go over a few of those, and then we're going to go over some more specific ones. So omega-3s, you can get them for wherever you'd like. I will tell you, because again, I am unbiased and I'm always honest. I work with a lot of people that are vegan, okay? And I fully support that. But we need to make sure and understand that you're getting your omega-3s as well, because a vegan diet can be very high in omega-6s. So what we want to do is just make sure you're not eating all the processed food and you are getting in your seaweed salad, nori, seaweed snacks, all of those are great, that you're getting in maybe some walnuts, that you're getting in some flax, some chia. Again, they don't convert great to DHA and to EPA. Very little EPA conversion, but you're still getting the benefit, and you can do well if you're not eating the omega-6s. Now, the easiest way to get it, obviously, is from supplementation, right? That's an easy way to do it. We'll link up omega-3 supports in the show notes. But here's the thing. I went over the fish that are highest in omega-3s before, and you need to look at the sardines, the wild salmon, the trout, the mackerel. Those are really, really powerful sources. Anchovies as well. That can get you there. Okay. So what else? What else is powerful? Fiber in the diet, believe it or not. Fiber in the diet, and specifically from things like lentils. Now, it's interesting because, again, when I hear lentils, I can't help but go back to the Ayurvedic khichdi dish, which is what we use for part of the detox process. And it's split mung bean or mung dal. And what is mung dal? Mung dal is basically green lentils split in half. And it's mixed with white rice for ease of digestion. Typically, a little bit of ghee would be added in or some olive oil. And it's a very simple meal, but they're finding now that the lignans, I can never pronounce that correctly. This is one that I'm trying to think of off the top of my head as well. Saponins, I believe. It's Saponins. I'm thinking in my head, I believe that's spelled correctly. But these specifically from lentils have been found to have natural anti-cancer-based properties. And it's amazing. I don't know that Ayurveda spoke about cancer in this particularly, but great to see that we're seeing that now, especially from mung beans or mung dal. Okay, another one. I know that the world is pretty much against grains, but you can actually, as long as your gut is not sensitive to grains, you can actually get some benefit from wild rice, oatmeal, some farro, which is an ancient-based grain, and even some barley. And I'm not talking about processed flour. I'm actually talking about eating barley, eating farro, having some nice organic, gluten-free based oatmeal. And same for wild rice, or even a really hearty based rice would work as well. Those are high in anti-cancer based polyphenols. They have the fiber. They have magnesium in them to kind of calm that sympathetic nervous system. Can be really, really excellent. So cayenne pepper and pepper in general has been one of those things that has been now studied to not only help with the uptake, and I'll just name it, right? Curcumin. We know curcumin is a big one. Turmeric. But it's been shown to help the uptake of your spices. So ginger, turmeric, BioPerine we're using in some of our products. BioPerine is basically the black pepper that helps with the absorption. We have our first flagship, never been done before. I can't wait to introduce it to you the first week of January, metabolic-based product. It comes with scientific research, the specific herbs I used over in India, and I will let you know that it does contain some of these specific peppers that you're not going to be able to taste, but that act tremendously on the body. So huge fan of that. Curcumin I just named. Talked about that before. You could take curcumin in capsules. You could take it as a tea. Very powerful spice. We know that it helps with healthy blood sugar, healthy inflammation. When we look at that, it's also a very powerful antioxidant. So you have to make sure you are taking enough of it, but really potent anti-inflammatory and antioxidant-based capacity to it. Now, garlic is another one. In yoga, they wouldn't do garlic, not that type of sattvic-based food. It has its own properties, though. It's antifungal. It's antibacterial. It's antimicrobial. It's part of the allium-based vegetable family. it's been shown to be effective on breast cancer cells. It also helps with higher levels, potentially positive effect on estrogen dominance, higher levels of estrogen. So when we look at sulfur-based foods in general, I'll lump garlic in with that. But if we look at broccoli and we look at cauliflower, we look at our Brussels sprouts, we know that those help with estrogen dominance. And if we can lower higher pathogenic forms, and I will just say endogenous or exogenous, meaning like if our body's producing too much estrogen, we need to get rid of that. If we get in too much estrogen from too much screen time, believe it or not, or blue light, or we have touching too much plastic or drinking from too much plastic, well, something like those cruciferous-based vegetables will help tremendously. Again, we do this every day in the smoothie, right? We do the daily fruit and vegetable blend, which has a lot of those sulfur-based, and then we also do the daily nutritional support. You get all these things. But again, if you're working more whole food into your diet, which whole food always first, I recommend, these are very, very powerful. Let me give you a couple more. Super popular, easy to do, easy to get. You might not even know that you're getting the benefits. Parsley, great one to add. Cilantro, great one to add to a salad or just like a Buddha bowl that I talk about a lot. Chamomile-based tea. Celery or celery roots, also excellent as well. Contains another powerful flavonoid called, again, pronunciation's not my strong suit, apigenin, apigenin, or apigenin, however it's pronounced. Carotenoids is another one. These are from your reds, right? So we talked about vitamin A on a previous podcast, but your reds, oranges, yellows, yellow bell peppers we talked about, yellow fruit, carrots, apricots, sweet potatoes, and I know it's random, but believe it or not, kale is going to contain some carotenoids as well. And lycopene. So lycopene is great. We've known lycopene is great for the prostate for a long time. Lycopene is a very powerful antioxidant, most famous or most well-known in tomatoes. Let me just give you a couple more. Dark leafy greens, probably not going to blow you away. You probably know that dark leafy greens are good for you. Cooked kale, spinach, Swiss chard. You've got beet greens, broccoli greens I talked about, mustard greens. All of those greens, you can throw them in your blender. You can cook them. You can have them however you want. Super powerful. The darker the green typically, and even a little bit sometimes the more bitter, in Ayurveda they always say bitter is better, is going to contain more polyphenols. That bitter actually comes from a lot of those polyphenols actually in those plant-based foods. All right, let me just give you one more because it's one of my favorite. I'll give you two more. All right, so berries, I've talked about this before. Even people that are worried about the glycemic index, they're worried about their weight, 1 or 2 cups of berries a day. Blackberries, blueberries, cherries, strawberries, make sure they're organic, especially if they're strawberries, packed with vitamin C, packed with antioxidants. And there is some evidence showing that berries may actually help reduce breast cancer risk. So again, for me, at least a cup a day. Every human, have them with breakfast. If you need to, if you want to do it because you don't eat breakfast a half hour before your lunch, whatever you need to do. But I'll tell you this, eventually you're going to get healthy enough where you can actually eat breakfast, right? That you can eat breakfast. You're still going to do a 12, 14-hour fast, but you can do breakfast. Put in a cup of berries in there, put some greens in, put some all these things, make a super smoothie, put some of the daily nutritional support, the daily fruit and vegetable blend powder, and you have yourself a powerful antioxidant-based smoothie. All right, I don't want to go over this over and over, but I'll tell you this. Green tea, it's almost no matter where you look. Green tea, ongoing role with its power from antioxidants, its ability to squelch free radicals, and its ability to protect DNA. So when you look at that, the EGCG, that powerful antioxidant in there, yes, it helps with detox. Yes, it helps with blood sugar. Yes, it helps with as an anti-inflammatory. And now, again, potentially cancer in its role in cancer as well. So if you drink coffee, you might want to try. You might want to just think about switching over to green tea, to matcha, organic, of course, and get it as clean as you can. But you can make a latte. You can make a matcha latte. That's what my wife does every single morning. She doesn't do coffee. It doesn't work well with her system. And so it's something to look at. And again, you don't have to do all of these. That's the thing is like everything I named today, you don't need to do all of them. But do, as we always go back, do try to get in your 7 to 9 servings of fruits and vegetables every day. If you say, oh, I can't do too much fruit, I understand. It's okay. Do more vegetables. And your sweet potatoes and your brightly colored veggies, they also count. All right, that counts as part of your 7 to 9 servings. So hopefully today's podcast was helpful. Again, all we're trying to do is spread awareness. We can't always escape all the toxins, but we can look up to see if the products we're using is toxic at ewg.org, okay? We can do our best in every facet of our life, and then we don't worry about what we can't control because that only causes more stress. So then we start to balance that with things like the super smoothies, with the berries, the cruciferous vegetables, the curcumin, the parsleys, the omega-3s. All of those things then become our force field, our shield to keep us healthy and to push back, right? We have to push back against the enemy, which are all these toxins in the environment. We need to be working as hard as they are to fight us. We need to give that pushback, right? So we can create balance, we can create equilibrium in our health, in our life. So thank you so much for tuning in. As always, please do feel free to share this show with anyone you believe it could serve. Did you know that the body really only becomes sick or imbalanced in only 2 ways? Over time, you become deficient in vital nutrients, and you also accumulate toxins internally and from the environment. As those nutrients diminish and you increase your total toxic load, your body then begins to show the first signs of dis-ease. It's actually quite predictable, and the good news is that if we know how you began to fill up that proverbial rain barrel, we also know how to empty it to begin the healing process. I was fortunate enough to learn this ancient healing process from my mentor after suffering from debilitating diseases for close to a decade. It was only when I began to implement these techniques did I finally overcome my illnesses and go on to live a life of energy and vitality that I now enjoy. I'd like to share with you now what I discovered after traveling all over the world and how to combine the best of ancient healing wisdom with state-of-the-art science. Allow me to teach you exactly how I've been able to help over 250,000 people to empty their rain barrel and begin to transform their body and lives into what they've always hoped they could be. To get your copy of the international bestseller, The Rain Barrel Effect, simply go to stephencabral.com/rainbarrel.